foot in the ground and finds Ayuk.
Well, found Ayuk, found a few more, and Jason, we had ourselves a bounce-back victory after what happened with the Ravens. Brock Purdy, turns out he's not a bust. He may have a future in this league. My goodness gracious.
Yeah, he's pretty good, and everything else went the Niners' way to get them that 1 seed for the NFC playoff run.
Too bad we don't have somebody to talk about it with.
Oh, we're in luck.
Is he on the line?
He's ready to go.
Joining us from The Athletic, the one, the only, fresh off of yesterday's victory, Matt Barrows. Good morning, Matt. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you guys. Yeah, absolutely.
Am I correct in the fact that we're speaking with you this morning, combined with the fact that you have a bit of seniority there, that you were not, it was not necessary for you to make the trip to Maryland, or are you still over there?
No, I did not go to Maryland. Myself and my colleague, David Lombardi, we split our road games at the beginning of the season. And so this was a Lombardi trip and not a Barrows trip. Barrows predicted that he'd be running on fumes at this point of the year, and didn't think that a cross-country trip would be all that great. So that's why Barrows is watching this one from home.
Hey, hold on. I got to ask. Sorry, Jason. Yeah. Would you mind telling us what the Lombardi road games were this year? I've got a theory here, but I want to see if it works.
Okay, so my I think I know where you're going with it. His road games were Washington, obviously. Jacksonville, Florida, which is a lovely place to visit. So they don't get any ideas. And then Cleveland, which is like one of the nicest American cities on the lake there. And then what was the other one? I forget. Well, he went to. He went to the opener in Pittsburgh. We both went to Pittsburgh, and we both went to Philadelphia. So yeah, so there you go. I don't know what you're getting at, Dave.
Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Jacksonville, and Washington.
I listen. The Seattle game was on Thanksgiving. I went to the Seattle game on Thanksgiving. So
yes,
I schlepped up there for that one.
So you're going to be rested and ready.
Yeah, I'm going to be the version of the 49ers, all kind of primed and ready to go when the playoffs finally start. It's going to be a long time before the playoffs start for 49ers, and as a beat writer, it sort of makes you nervous. Like, oh my God, how am I going to fill up the 2 weeks before the first game? So. That's what we're working on now, kind of planning stories ahead of time.
Yeah. So how do you think they'll? I mean, we played a clip earlier, Matt, of Kyle Shanahan, obviously thrilled that they got the 1 seed. They can kind of dictate the terms. He was like, yeah, I can't rest everybody because they just don't have that many people on the roster. There may be some he sits out this week, but how do you think he'll approach, this final one against the Rams?
Yeah, I think it'll be. They can't go total preseason game because. There are 90 guys on the roster in the preseason, and there are only 53 on the regular season roster, and some of those guys are going to be injured. Like Christian McCaffrey, for example, won't play in this game. Ross Dwelly, Sacto guy, he's not on IR, but he's injured. He won't play in this game, so he's a little bit bound by that. But I do think it'll be. Preseason like where you might decide, okay, we're going to go with our starters for the first quarter or so, and then they're in uniform, they're in the game, but it's going to be the backups that largely play for the rest of it. If one of those backups got hurt, then one of the starters would have to come back into the contest. So I don't know exactly how he's going to divide it up, but that's how I imagine it's going to be.
Now, we looked earlier, Matt, at Kyle's record, especially over the last 2 years, but you can really go 3 back after the bye week. And I understand a bye week is not the same as 2 weeks off, but it does seem, if you take recent history into account, that and rest tends to help this team a lot more than hurt it. And I wonder if that factors in at all as to how long and how many he's going to rest this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't really been in this situation. They had the number one seed back in 2019, but if you remember, they needed every second of that game, that finale in Seattle, to get that that number one seed. And that was a night game too. So they finished that season, and they were beat up and they were exhausted. And I know fans will say, "Well, they're beat up and exhausted right now." Not to the degree they were back then. And they have this sort of bonus Week 18 game where they don't have to go pedal to the metal in it. So I think that he's going to be okay as far as rest. I think his priority is going to be sort of keep these guys fine-tuned. Obviously, he's not going to want to overdo it. He's going to want to give the Trent Williams of the world plenty of rest. But I think in that bye week practice, for example, next week's practice, he's going to want to practice and practice fairly hard just to kind of keep everybody in the right rhythm. Everybody's going to stick around. No one's going to go home to various parts of the country. It's going to be a business week as if there were a game the following Sunday.
Talk with Matt Barrows here. Matt, I got to ask you about the significance of the offensive total numbers here, but through 17 weeks now, you get McCaffrey at 2,000 plus all-purpose yards, Ayuk and Kittle 1,000 yards, and then Brock Purdy sets the 49ers single-season record for passing yards. Amongst that, list of amazing quarterbacks, Hall of Famers, legends, that's pretty incredible what Brock Purdy just did this year.
Yeah, for sure, and I think it's notable that we're talking about 16 games there. And one of the laments of former players is going to be, back in my day, we only played 16 games, so we only had 16 chances to accumulate these totals. The modern guys play 17. Well, the 49ers did all that damage in 16 games, and McCaffrey won't play on Sunday, and Purdy is probably going to play a partial game, and so will his pass catchers. So I think that's significant, that this was done in sort of the traditional 16-game season, which just speaks to how explosive, how prolific, how efficient. Really, that's the key word for Brock Purdy. How efficient he's been this season.
Matt, we were trying to think earlier if there's any other team in the NFL that whose fans would be more disappointed without a championship, and I thought maybe the Chiefs, but that's just expectations. They have them. This is now 2024, which marks the 30th anniversary, which for you, for me, for Jason, people in our age bracket is crazy. When we grew up with this team winning 5 championships in relatively 14, 15 years, short order. Is this truly the non-hyperbole championship or bust year when you think of the franchise and the fans?
For sure. I mean, I think it would be a total disappointment. Just starting with the players and the coaches. I mean, they've been building this juggernaut all off season. I don't want to say that they've been robbing from future seasons, but it's all now. I mean, everything is geared to win the Super Bowl right now. I mean, they're still bringing in free agents. Sebastian Joseph Day, for example. I thought if remember that throw that Brock Purdy made to Kittle over the middle, where Kittle just got submarined, and boy, for a couple of seconds there, I thought that looked a lot like the Buda Baker hit from a few years ago that sent Kittle out of action for half a season. And I thought, boy, this team is going to be making a phone call to Zach Ertz. I mean, they do have contingencies for a lot of these guys because they realize the window is wide open right now. This is it. They have to do it. And I'm not saying that means that they couldn't do it next year. When you've got a young quarterback like Brock Purdy, the window is always open. But boy, it's right in front of them right now. So I agree with you. You don't want to kind of dwell on the negative, but I think it would be a colossal disappointment if they didn't win it this year.
And what's crazy, Matt, is Dave and I were talking about, there's a decent chance. We know it gets seeded and reseeded, whatever. They're going to play the worst team by seeding, but there's a decent chance they could open up with Philadelphia. That's a tough way to get your playoff journey started.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the benefits of kind of watching that first weekend at home. You can sort of root for some of the upsets and teams to get knocked out. I was talking about this with Tim Kawakami the other day that all of these NFC teams. Go back to the Ravens game and what made the Ravens stand out and what made the Ravens such a difficult opponent, particularly for Brock Purdy. They got a complete defense. They had two inside linebackers that really could patrol the middle of the field, sort of the bread and butter area of the 49ers. These NFC teams, that's a weakness with each of them, including the Philadelphia Eagles. And the 49ers sort of put a spotlight on that in that game in early December, and it seems like every other team that's followed has done the same thing, sort of gone after that weak spot, that soft underbelly of that defense. So in that respect, I don't know if the 49ers would be that frightened of the Eagles. The Eagles have a fantastic offensive line. All it takes is for Jalen Hurts to get hot, and that would be problematic. But I think the combination of rest and the fact that the 49ers know really well how to attack that team, both offensively and defensively, I think they'd be okay with it.
Last thing for you, Matt. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but your just best guess as we sign off. Who's in bubble wrap this weekend?
Well, Christian McCaffrey. The question for me is, do you put Trent Williams, the elder statesman of the team, in bubble wrap?
Yes.
But is he a package deal with Brock Purdy? So if you take your left tackle out of the equation, do you also take your starting quarterback out of the equation and play Sam Darnold? And I think you might want to play Brandon Allen too, given what happened last year. Just give your third quarterback some reps heading into the playoffs. So I wouldn't be surprised if both the left tackle and the starting QB, who, by the way, has been dealing with stinger issues in a couple of weeks recently, the week off. But I don't know. I think everybody else might suit up. And like I said, it'll be a cameo appearance, but I think that they need most of those guys at least in uniform if there are injuries elsewhere.
That's Matt Barrows of The Athletic. Looking forward to hopefully a long and prosperous playoff run and visits with him each and every week. Matt, appreciate it. Happy New Year, my friend. And we know this, if they end up playing, well, never mind. I'm trying to think of a place they'd go on the road. You'll be on. I'm just really glad we found out that you are nice enough to allow your junior colleague to see some of really the greatest cities in the whole U.S.
Well, don't you want to visit the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Of
and
course.
I'm sure there's some landmark in Jacksonville that is worth visiting.
We appreciate you and your kindness, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Anytime, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
That's Matt Barrows. We will take a break. When we come back,